Happy January 29th. Welcome back to Gatekeeper Media's New Year's resolutions. Today, we're going to hit the field and talk about backhand rollers. Rollers can be a really great way to get distance potential, shape some weird fairways, and if you trust your disc properly, they can finish a particular direction pretty reliably. I'm going to be using the crank and the thrasher, both from Discraft, to work in the field and think about angles and finishing. Knowing your disc's stability is critical here. The more stable a disc is, the more it's going to have a tendency to hold kind of a cutty angle. It'll flip over slower, and that means it has a lot more distance potential, but it also carries some risk in case, for a backhand roller at least, it just kind of tracks left, where you have less control over it. Conversely, a flippy disc, you're going to have to be more specific with your landing angle because it is definitely going to end up tracking right at the end. You can reverse those directions if you're left-handed or throwing a flick roller. I find that when throwing a backhand roller with a distance driver, it's best to use a standard power grip. And I'm going to do that by putting all 4 fingers with their pads inside the rim. I want the disc kind of at the inside of my first knuckle and then following all the way down my palm so that I'm getting a lot of contact there. The disc is deep into my hand. And then my thumb, the pad, has a lot of contact on the disc, and it's pretty much over top of my index finger's first joint. I find that one critical error that a lot of people make is that they end up trying to round. And that makes it difficult to keep the proper nose angle and release point. So instead, let's think about changing our arm slot and wrist angle so that the disc can be pulled through just like any other shot. Instead of being flat and pulling through a power pocket, we're going to change the angle and pull through like this. You can lean back a little bit. That can help, especially with overstable discs. And I think it's important to know about your footwork too. Rather than a distant shot where I'm attacking the disc straight on, more or less, you might have to go a little bit more to the side because it's an extreme anhyzer release that we're replicating here. So let's throw a couple backhand rollers. I'm going to start with thrashers, which are a little bit flippier. So what I'm expecting is to be able to put it down on a cutty angle, let it run, and then as it gets over to vertical, it's going to kind of spin around to the right pretty quickly. Those thrashers all did about what I expected. If I landed it on a cutty angle, it wanted to get to vertical and then flip over once it was on the ground. With a crank, which is more stable, I'm gonna have to do a little bit more work to get it to that vertical. But if I hit it correctly, these can run much further than the flippy thrashers will. Like the overhands we talked about a few days ago, there really isn't a good way to learn rollers without making some egregious mistakes first. So hit the field, use good mechanics, adapt them a little bit to find a new angle of release, and you win the game when you can find a few discs that you can reliably control where they land, how they land, and how they finish.